Biddly, biddly, biddly boy. Yes, yes, yo. Rebooting it. You know what time it is. Get that badger in and on and over here. I've got a couple of things I want to rattle through. There's an interview here with, nearly said Jordan Peterson then, but it's Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver and Ade Oladipo, however you say it. But I also just want to play this because I've just seen the first bit of this and it's Chris Eubank going in on Warren and Eddie Hearn. It's pretty funny, to be fair.
On the promotional team, you've chosen boxer. Why?
Why boxer? Because every other promoter out here is a scumbag. That's why. You know, we've got Frank Warren behind me.
Watch Frank Warren go.
Cheating his way through boxing for the last couple decades. Wow. Sued me for a couple $100,000 a few years ago, so obviously I was never going to go with him.
Warren's got no chill, has he?
Calais Sauerland, had me locked up.
Speak up, I can't hear you.
Calais Sauerland.
You've got to give it to Eubank for just saying it.
Locked up in a terrible contract for the last few years.
All I will say about that,
money out of me at every opportunity.
That Sauerland deal, that's not Sauerland's fault, is it? If you take a contract on, that's your contract, isn't it? So, it's sort of suggesting that he's a slave in a minute on that. It's like, it's not really fair. That
scumbag. Eddie Hearn, Frank Smith. They did everything they could to try and make this fight against Conor Benn still go ahead.
Scumbag.
Still go ahead.
Why do you fight
after knowing that they
look around the room. Warren. He's the fucking best to have ever done it.
I would say the only promoter that I know for sure.
What's it got to do with him fighting?
Isn't a scumbag. Is His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh. This is a man who isn't trying to take money from fighters.
You can't know for sure that he's not a scumbag either, but I appreciate probably as a promoter he's not, so he's not trying to giving them all money, but that's a slave contract. It's not. I don't think it's a fair observation.
He's a man of God. He's a man of religion. That's what's most important to the people of Saudi Arabia.
But it is funny. You got to give him props.
He just wants to put the biggest fights on, the best events on, and pay fighters what they're worth. And as a fighter,
Warren,
it's a blessing to be
it's
a fighter
so
at this
funny.
moment in time because this is the
Furious.
first time we've ever had a promoter like this.
He's a proper gangster, isn't he, Warren?
Ben Shalom's a very cool guy too.
I don't know if he's being sarcastic with Ben Shalom thing
Welcome
there
back,
or
Chris. Not. Harmony in the room, as expected.
You can't get away from this Ade a minute, but yeah, I want to go over this. I don't, and we're not going to sit through 50 minutes of this. I'm going to see how long I can get through it. But I just wanted to, because I was going to spark this channel back up other day, and a few weeks ago when it was Fury fight, it were Fury and Ngannou, and I wanted to say that won't actually be the fight that everybody's banging on, yarking on about that it's going to be. I actually thought Fury had struggled in that. And then with this one, I really thought Dubois stood a proper good chance. Like, nobody's put it on Joshua before. So I'm going to watch this for as long as I can bear it and put some observations on. Now, before I even watch it, you can pretty much guarantee that Simon Jordan will say something along the lines of, he knew this had happened, but he never said it was going to happen. So he'll say, like, he got... he'll say something like he was convinced by other people. He'll say something like that. There'll be... Spencer Oliver won't know whether he's on Joshua's... He knows he's on Joshua's side, but he won't know whether he can just butter his ass up or not. And Ade will just be looking for any excuse to lick his ass. So it's a really strange scenario. Simon Jordan's extremely effective at saying nothing, but being so he's right every single time. It's like he'll say about any manager that comes in. He said it about Eric Ten Hag, didn't he? Saying, he's not cut out for the job. But, like, for instance, he'll say something like, with the Eric Ten Hag thing, he went back on that. And then when it comes back round and it's turned to shit, then he says again, a year later, he says, I did say it when he first came. It's like, yeah, but you changed your mind after a couple of months and now you're going back. So it's not like a flip-flop. It's like he says both things over time and over a span of time. And with football managers, you're going to be right eventually. They all get sacked, don't they? But what he's going to do here is he'll do that thing where he said that Dubois got a chance, but he's not allowed to say it, basically. Or what will he say? Let me think. I've thought about it. Yeah, he'll say something like, depends on which version of which one turns up. So he'll say, well, I knew Dubois didn't have but I didn't know which Dubois were going to turn up. It's like, which Dubois? Obviously, like, if Dubois turns up like me, he's going to get laid out, innit? If Joshua turns up like me, he's going to get laid out. If you fight, if it sounds like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's a fucking duck. It's like, all right, Simon, so let's see how long we can bear this out for.
Welcome to episode 88 of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. And today, one of the greatest, I think, around, Ade Oladipo.
Wow, it's a
nice
big
to
intro.
see you, boys. Biggest fight week that we've had for a very long time. Let's dive straight into it. Let's get
Well, hold on.
reactions.
Before we do that, can we just wish you a happy birthday?
Yes, thank
This
you.
is coming from me, Ade, and all the viewers,
gifts,
obviously.
Gifts, money, I take it all.
Is that his birthday?
Maybe a bit of lunch,
top?
Pizza Express or something
all
like
right, thanks very much. I've got better things to hang about with you little weasel.
Just
Anyway,
as
come
a
on, let's
caveat, I don't actually mind Simon Jordan, but it's just I just think none of them sail.
that. I'm on this show.
What's the first
Students,
fuck off.
get all the flex you need at Pure Gym with no contracts, 24/7 access in most.
reactions? What was the immediate reaction on the night?
Do you want to go? Do you
One
wanna get
of excitement. One of excitement first.
He won't be able to say
It's
all bad
been
about
a long
Joshua
week.
here.
You know,
It's
we'd
ridiculous.
sort of toured London, if you like.
It was shit,
We
wasn't
did
it,
the old
Joshua, the night?
Billingsgate, We did Trafalgar Square, which, by the way, I didn't know you could rent. I didn't know Trafalgar Square was up for hire. Obviously, it was.
Well, everything's
I
up
don't
to built in
mind
this
him
country
either. I
these
don't
days,
mind
mate.
any of
Yeah,
them.
right. So, but ultimately, look,
Bollocks.
if Saturday doesn't deliver, all that means nothing. So, sort of getting in there on Saturday, and you have a look around, and when it's full, and they kind of lit it up, I think it was blue and red at various stages. I was like, wow, this is insane.
The production was actually insane. All week, really, if we're honest. I think...
Predominantly green, wasn't it?
Huh?
It wasn't blue and red, it was predominantly green,
It
wasn't it?
was green for a
green
national
for a while.
anthem.
Yeah,
it was green for about 30 seconds.
But yeah, listen, I thought it was sensational. I mean, you look at that, when you looked around, what is it, 98,000, Ed?
They said, yeah.
Yeah, 98,000 people, and it was just, the fight delivered, and the undercard delivered in many ways as well.
Well, let's get into the fight.
Just on the undercard as well, like there was no. I tweeted it out. Don't matter what the undercard were mint, but there's no amount of. That's why nobody bothers with undercard, because there were nobody in ground for the Warrington fight, nobody in ground for Willie Hutchinson fight. That were a good fight at night. Don't matter what the undercard's doing, nobody's going to turn up, so it's pointless.
Let's get into this.
Granted, it's better for the viewer at home, like, 'cause I wouldn't have been watching early doors if not, but I only watched to watch AJ get banged out, but I knew he would.
The actual mechanics of what we saw.
Nobody's put it on him.
You give me that "I told you so" moment, didn't you?
Well, I kind of would like to, but I allowed myself to be bullied, cajoled, and persuaded by the so-called boxing expert in the room, experts, that AJ was going to win.
Yeah.
And the only thing I was right about, if indeed I was right about anything, was that if AJ got hit, there was trouble. And that this redemption and this rehabilitation that had been forecast,
can't believe how predictable they are. It's
suggested,
like...
and that Ben Davison was the oracle, would come unstuck potentially if someone got
It's
involved.
nobody's suggesting that Ben Davison was the oracle, though, Simon. Just your mates that are all got their heads so far up Anthony Joshua's ass. It's unbelievable. Fair enough, Joshua's had a mint career or whatever, but he's full of water, as Fury would say. He's an overhyped job. And you believe all your mates that have just literally can't say all against him.
But you was in the camp of...
He gets called a demigod all the time on Sky Sports, or he did when he was a member, when Sky Sports pretended to like him.
AJ winning inside 6 rounds like the rest of us. So
Yeah. I mean, that's my point. So
Yeah.
it's very difficult for me to sit and go, I told you so. The only thing I told you
because
You
you didn't dare
actually
say it.
dropped me a phone call the next morning, gang.
So, I told you so. Yeah, I did, about the fact that Anthony hadn't been hit.
Yeah.
And the thing for me was that there was danger when he did. The only response to that is that he didn't fold. He went out on his shield. But the fact of the matter is that it showed frailties in him. But then again, if you get yourself hit the way Daniel Dubois hit him, I think most heavyweights would have gone down.
But you guys, you can't deny, yes, he got caught in that first round. He went down heavily there. And he never really recovered from that. But he showed...
He didn't get caught. He's about to go on about how much heart he showed and all that. He didn't get caught. He was looking to get laid out. He had absolutely no defence whatsoever. He was literally fighting like some drunk in a pub.
Balls in that fight. He showed a lot of heart. And you've got to give him credit for that.
Absolutely.
You've got to give him credit
No one
for
can
that.
make any claims about that. But let's pare it back from who was right and who was wrong.
Yeah.
And look at the whole structure of the fight. From the ring walks. And a lot was being made.
No.
I thought wrongly, and I don't know what you thought, Ade, that potentially Daniel Dubois was going to freeze. And I didn't think that was going to happen in the slightest.
If we go down
But
this
when you saw the
thing where
ring
he's
walks, they
fucking
were
tripped
different.
up.
They had different feels to them.
Because he's had a...
So what did you take away from the initial reaction of
So
Dubois
boring.
going in and
They're
then
just making something out of
Anthony
no.
coming in?
Dubois' ring walk was menacing.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was wearing like a robe, like almost throwback to Mike
Tyson-esque,
Tyson.
wasn't it? Yeah.
And I had Tony Bellew next to me. And I kind of hit Tony Bellew on his leg. I was like, look, Dubois is fully locked in here. Like, this 98,000 thing hasn't phased him whatsoever, right? There's been talk about him not being a proper champion. Could he handle it mentally?
by you,
And I
dickheads.
saw a
This
guy
is what
come
I
into the
mean.
ring that was almost like a dog that
So
wanted to be let off the
disrespectful.
leash. Like, just let me fight. Forget all the
What
nonsense.
do you reckon
forget
he's
the
in
press
there to
conference
do?
And 101
I don't
questions
get
I don't want to
I
answer.
don't get what people are
I
on
just want
about.
to fight.
Anybody that runs
I saw
around with a
AJ
chin
come
out
into
like
the
that are
ring
going to
and
get
I saw
laid out.
Nerves. He stumbled.
See,
as he
I cannot believe they're on about this stumble. This is what I mean. Because he walks out, he takes himself so seriously and he's dragging his feet across floor. They were all saying how confident he looked and stuff on weighing. And now they're going to try and suggest that, there was something not right. And they'll probably reference back to Ruiz's fight when, he had a panic attack backstage and they were just desperate to try to find an excuse for him. He got banged up. He got rolled up like a rug. Just leave it.
came out of the walkway,
Just say
ever
it.
so slightly, but I saw a stumble, and I know, knowing him mentally, that's put him off already.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I don't mean to keep pausing it, but if that's put him off, he had no chance, did he? If you stumble a little, he didn't trip, he just dragged his foot and if that has put you off, you are mentally done. Capiche. Gone. .com. Fucking. If that is putting you off and you're off to go get in there with that Dubois, who's obviously a monster, who's lost a fair few fights himself, but, horrible. Can you imagine fighting either of them, to be fair? But if you're tripping up a bit, if you stumble and then you think, oh, that's put me off, then you are going to get rolled up like a rug.
And then the walk to the ring, when he went onto that platform, usually AJ kind of does a sort of a look around and he kind of, gives almost a salute to the crowd. Like, I'm going to hear and I'm going to do it. Didn't see any of that. He wanted to get out of that AJ sort of pyrotechnic thing as quick as possible and make that ring walk. And then I looked at him in the ring and I was as close to ringside as you can get. And I just knew there was a problem there. I don't know why I knew that, and I think I heard Don Charles say something similar when he was on with you guys yesterday. But I looked at him and I thought, okay, we have a problem. I looked at Dubois and looked at someone that just wants to fight, and I looked at AJ and he looked a bag of nerves. And the complete opposite was supposed to happen.
It was the polar opposite. That's what I'm saying. In the build-up, we were all talking about, was it going to be Daniel Dubois? How would he react when he sees 98,000 people there and they were all predominantly AJ fans anyway? And it was a polar opposite. I think that with Daniel Dubois, you looked at him and it was like the Terminator walking in. You looked at him and he was shouting, he was focused. You go, he's there, he's ready. And AJ was very relaxed, walked in, very cool.
Did you think
I
he
don't
looked
think anyone
So was he
expected the
relaxed
fight
and
to
cool
unfold the
or
way it
not?
did.
I thought
'Cause he never
looked
comes out
like a
screaming.
man walking towards the gallows. I looked at him when he came in because you try and read into these things, and all of us become, miniature psychoanalysts, don't we, in those moments? And you looked at
pathetic.
Dubois and exactly what Ade said, which was ready to go.
Yeah.
All business.
Yeah.
Unless he
not
gets
phased,
chinned and then
in
you'd
the
say,
zone,
oh, he didn't look like he was
barking at the
serious
camera,
about it. He looked like he was too
motivating
overhyped.
himself.
Didn't
Anthony
look like he was
walked in,
calm enough.
Looked like a man walking towards the gallows. Looked like he got the world on his shoulders. Looked like something had changed from Friday evening weigh-in to walking into that arena.
Agree.
I don't know whether it's the expectation that Anthony gets put upon him. I remember seeing it and saying to one of his entourage a while ago about the 0-2 when he came back against Franklin, seeing the level go up. When he walks in the room, the level goes up, the expectation goes up. And whether that hit him between the eyes or whether it was stumbling over his own 2 feet.
Dubois
And then
in
going into
between
the ring,
eyes.
Dubois pacing, building himself into a motivated mindset. Anthony standing in the corner.
Yeah, again, you could argue, it's all this hepped up tension. He's all anxious and he's having to move. Joshua takes himself very seriously. The demigod doesn't need to move, does he?
Absolutely statue still.
Yeah.
And I look at that and I think to myself, what is that about?
Yeah.
Where's that
Nothing.
coming from?
It's about nothing.
Does it smack in any shape or form of his entrance in America for the Ruiz fight? Was there any similarities there? Although I saw he was more relaxed in the Ruiz fight. He was laughing.
Why,
and
you
sort of
mean when he
smiling
last
away
got
into the ring.
chinned?
Did you
He
get
was
any
laughing
comparisons
and sticking his tongue out when he got chinned by Dubois, when he got rolled up like a rug again. What are you talking about, you goons?
It was a big launch of him in America.
I think the concern for me was the slow walk that AJ had into the ring. We're outside. It's a long walk as well.
Should have ran.
And Daniel
Should've
Dubois
gone to
came out,
his
he
knees.
was sweating, he was pumped, he'd worked out, and that's exactly how you
Do
have to be,
Pilates
especially
on
heavyweight
weighing.
boxing. We knew what Daniel Dubois was going to do. We knew that he
Should've
was
done
going
a
to come
cartwheel.
flying out, take the fight straight to Anthony Joshua. So why does Joshua then come in and looks cold. There was no sweat there. He was very relaxed. The ring walk was very slow. No, you're right in what you say, Simon. No movement in the ring and just didn't look quite focused. Don't understand that myself, if I'm totally honest.
There's
I
a
think
few
that
little
the
things as well.
preparation was maybe not
advisors.
right there. I think they
Decent ones that actually
misjudged
just tell the
that
truth.
whole situation.
You
I want
fucked
to
it,
I want to
lad. It's
agree
all
with you because I
now.
want to try and find an excuse for AJ, but AJ
Yeah.
doesn't misstep
He want-
in preparation.
You see that? He wants to find an excuse for AJ. Like, well, you are doing, aren't you? By not just saying he was shit, really poor, but they won't say that.
No, AJ, everything.
Well, it was
is,
miscalculated, for
Everything
sure.
is perfect. Everything is get up at this time, sleep at that time.
So
run at
has
that
he
time.
worked out
Everything
before
is
he's come
perfect.
out or not?
And there was
Don't-
again,
you're
there
saying
was
it's
the
not
misstep in the
perfect?
ring walk.
The
But then there was when
misstep.
he was in the ring. I don't know if you guys saw this. Again, small things, but I look at and maybe I overanalyze AJ.
Yeah,
he
you
was going
do.
to take his robe off.
Yeah, I saw
he
that.
took it
And
off and then he put it back on
But
again.
he couldn't get it off, could he?
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
he took, and I was like, what's going on here? Little things. that
Yeah,
play
but
with your mind.
it wasn't a fact that a case of that he couldn't get it off. I think he just changed his mind and put
changed
it back
his mind,
on.
yes.
And that is a very strange thing to do because when you take your robe off, it's now time. We're
now
ready.
time.
Yeah, I thought they
right? And
couldn't-
he's
I
gone
couldn't
there and he's
get it
like,
over
no, I'm not
gloves,
ready.
but yeah.
And he puts it
Right,
back on.
taking
But
his robe off,
them
just
small
talk
things-
about him
what
getting
the
chinned.
difference
Everything's in the detail.
performance?
Everything is in the detail. There's small margins. But what about the
Small margins.
observation?
Small margins are little things that happen that are actually important. Seriously, if him not being able to decide whether he can take his robe off or not is only important if he's about to have sex with Daniel Dubois, whether he wants to keep his robe on or not. I don't understand when you're about to have a scrap. He should be solely focused on having a scrap, whether or not whether he wants to take his robe off yet or not. We're not in a brothel, you boys.
That he got there at 9 o'clock in the evening. In terms of arriving at the arena.
Well,
because that's the perceived wisdom is that he arrived there at 9.
Yeah.
Now that can't be the preparation that one would expect to be in the ring doing a ring walk in 50 minutes.
Yeah.
You're coming into the arena, getting yourself acclimatized to where you're going to be and getting
I mean,
yourself
that's
into
a
the right frame of
legitimate
mind.
point.
to
He
go fight.
arrived.
That's
to go through the
ridiculous.
routine.
Did he arrive at 9?
He arrived at 9.
Why is
He
that the
arrived
That's ridiculous.
everywhere throughout fight week late.
Yeah, but to go
Well,
through
that's totally
on fight night, to go through the routine of getting there, soaking up the atmosphere, building up, that's half an hour gone already, yeah? You go out, you have a look, you go, right, this is what I'm going into, mindset, all of that stuff. The preparation time is not enough going from 9 p.m. Now, I heard the excuse was that there was traffic or something, and so he arrived at 9 p.m. Well, that, when you're going into a fight of that magnitude, with a crowd like that,
At Amazon, discover electrifying
Just get there a bit
offers.
early. So in reality, these aren't my adverts, evidently.
Here are 3 results you can.
You get there a bit early, but getting there at 9 is stupid. That's legitimate. Why they've not said that from the start. That's an
right
actual
preparation.
excuse.
You can't.
But I
get
thought
yourself
everything
ready
everything
and
was done
tune
perfect.
and
Well, they're not
focused
anticipating
in
a bit
that-
of traffic.
And
Time
Spence,
scale.
to add on to it, like I said, everything was late throughout fight week.
Yeah, I
and I know
see,
people
yeah.
might
That's
say
totally
they're small
different.
things, but again, it's all in the detail. Press conference. Sorry, the grand
It doesn't
arrival of
have to be
Leicester
there on
Square.
time for a press
Late.
conference.
The excuse was
Yeah.
traffic. The press conference.
It doesn't. Why is
where
it?
Daniel Dubois
that's
was
not really
pacing
putting
up
off,
and
though,
down
is
for
it?
ages, having been
He
there
needs to
3
be
hours.
in the ground.
We kind of had to delay it for half an hour because AJ was late. Again,
and people
use the
do
thing
that.
of traffic. I'm like, are you focused or not
Yeah,
focused?
yeah.
I mean, some of that you can understand, though, can't you? Because ultimately he's going, I'm the ace side, you wait.
Yeah.
You wait. And you will wait till I get in a room. And I'll get there and you'll know where your place is.
Yes.
But that's different to being prepared to go into the ring. When you're late to a press conference and you're blowing off your opponent by saying, wait, the thing starts when I get there.
Blowing him off,
But the
Simon.
fight starts at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And everyone knows that. And
Yeah.
you ain't making no one wait for that, least of all the Saudis. So the bottom line is that Anthony's preparation and the preparation around him didn't seem right. And doesn't seem right in retrospect. And again, we're focusing a lot on AJ, and we will do for a period of time. But we're going to get into Daniel
You're not
Dubois
going to
because
actually,
he's
but
the
you're
guy
not going to
that won the
mention.
fight.
You're not going to mention his performance, though.
But when you look,
They will now.
you look at the first round,
There we
and
go. He got
you look at
chinned.
that Daniel's approach to it. I mean, he starts the fight brilliantly, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, how impressed were you? How surprised? I mean, I wasn't surprised that Daniel started fast.
No.
It would appear that everybody in the arena
predicted
expected
that.
him to start fast, except Anthony and his corner.
Well, we done a tactics piece, myself and Shane McGuigan, and we talked a lot about who establishes that jab first, who takes control of the centre of the ring, and it was all about Daniel Dubois come out very, very fast, but he got off with a jab and he started landing the jab, and he was landing it crisply, and I'm looking at it and going, AJ from the opening bell was doing all the basics wrong. All the fundamentals that you're taught, like you get hit with a jab, your head goes back, you get hit with another jab, then you've only got to come off the line 2 inches either way, knowing that jab is like now who's controlling the fight. And that was the problem right from the opening bell, that Daniel took centre of the ring. He got off with a jab first. AJ went on the back foot, and we expected that in some ways. And we thought, right, let him come on and do that. But as he was going back the 30 seconds before the bell went, when he got caught with that right hand, he's gone back in a straight line. And actually, we talked in the tactics piece as well about Daniel Dubois being a little bit weak on the left side when he attacks, comes in with the left hand down low. Actually, AJ was doing that, and that's how he got caught. The right hand come from, like, you could see it at the back of the room. AJ's gone back in the straight line with his hand down by his waist. Like, tactically, he got it all wrong.
It's bad.
He got it all wrong because he knows that Daniel, the only chance that Daniel Dubois had was by starting fast, putting on AJ and catching him. And we thought that, listen, that's the chance he's got. But realistically, AJ's boxing IQ, maybe a little bit too experienced, and he would work that out. He fell into the trap.
Do you ever worry, insofar as you're worried, Ade, for Anthony, that he doesn't really know what he is in terms of falling in between a variety of different styles, listening to different voices, finding different ways to overcome the challenges that he's had in life, and then falling into a situation where he doesn't know what to do, when to do it? Because I'm looking at him and thinking, we've listened to this reinvigoration of him over the last 12 months. We've listened to the fact that Ben Davison is the wizard that's turned him into this rebuilt, revitalised, re-energised Anthony Joshua.
Off you lot.
But sometimes, I mean, I heard a story that he's asking people at the beginning of the week, does Daniel Dubois really hit as hard as people say he does? And those sort of conversations going. And I've heard stories before about him being ready to fight and then walking into a room and asking another trainer of another fighter, how would you fight the fight I'm about to fight?
Say it's a sponge
that was against
now.
Alexander Usyk.
That was against Alexander Usyk, so you know the trainer I'm talking about.
I was going to say, he's just a student of the game.
Doing gloves on. Do you think that there's a danger that Anthony doesn't quite know what he is, so then finds the desire to be that vacuum be filled by other people saying, you're this, you do that, you're this, you do that, rather than him knowing, this is what I am, I know what I am, I know what I'm capable of doing, and this is what I'm going to do, and living and dying by that?
Yeah, he's an overthinker.
Yeah.
He
wants to take up too much information.
He's an overthinker that wants to soak up information from various trainers, and he spoke about this when he left Rob McCracken about searching for various bits of knowledge from different trainers as opposed to staying with one. Hence why in the last couple of years we've seen 3 different trainers, Robert Garcia.
Just talk about getting chinned. He's got no chin, boys. He's gone.
So he's tried to pick pieces.
He's gone, I'm afraid.
From everyone.
I'm sorry,
when I
boys,
spoke to him
but
in the lead up to this fight, he was speaking about being a gladiator and going into battle. And I was like, okay, hopefully we see that. And all I saw was someone being bullied. And I've never, say we want about AJ technically as a boxer, I know you're speaking from a technical standpoint. AJ's always been the bigger, the stronger guy that will bully you.
Well,
so when Daniel was kind of bullying him and putting his elbow in his face and head, and I'm like, okay, bully him back. And forget boxing ability for a second, because Daniel's been doing this since he was 7, AJ started at 18. Just use your strength and bully him back. You're allowing yourself to get bullied. So I was stunned. I'm not going to play Monday morning quarterback here and pretend that I knew exactly. I was stunned with what I was seeing. I couldn't believe
he was getting bullied. Like you say, AJ's always been that fighter that
he hasn't been a bully. He's never bullied anybody. He's laid people out and he's really put it on people, but that's not bullying. Bullying's like Baby Miller, where they just get their head down and just, like, Chisora bullies people and tries to hunt them down. Joshua's never done that. He's never bullied anyone, never hunted anyone down. He's just waited. Landed, to be fair to him, a big punch. He's a big puncher. Throws a few combinations, and as providing he don't get chinned in between combinations, he wins the fight. You know, he tried to put it on Ruiz, and he got chinned, and that's, well, maybe that is a bully. You know, bullies can't take a punch either, can they? But
that's his main assets. Yeah. That's his big advantages. If he goes into that technical mode and trying to work behind the jab and you know, trying to be technical, that's not his game.
These fighters yeah, they are what they are. Yeah. Malik Scott's another one. And it's funny because Malik Scott was on with you guys. And he was speaking all technical with you guys. And he's trying to change Deontay Wilder into a technical fighter. Deontay Wilder is just a brawler. Let him brawl. AJ's always been a bit of a bully. Just let him be a bully. And now I was watching AJ trying to be a counter-puncher. You said that, you know, you expected him to be on the back foot. I didn't.
Who, AJ?
Yeah,
I expected him to hold his ground and let Daniel come to him.
Let's have a fight.
And counter.
That's what he's always done.
AJ's good at stepping back and throwing the shots and whatever.
From the very first second, AJ was on the back foot. I'm like, why are you on the back foot?
Did you not think he was going to do that for the first couple of rounds?
Yeah, no, I thought
just keep at range.
I didn't think he would
let Daniel
run.
Dubois come charging across the ring and keep him at range.
Yeah, but I didn't think he would run as much as he would because he allowed Daniel to get up too much momentum. And that was the problem. It was more about holding your ground and saying, like, listen, I'm the guy here because whoever gets that centre of the ring and you're holding it there, it's a psychological battle going on as well. And AJ, as soon as he felt that first jab, he went on his bike. And that was probably the worst thing he could have done because that fed Daniel. And Daniel started getting the momentum. Daniel's one of those guys. He's like the Terminator, where he just pushes forward. There's no real thought process in what he's doing.
Unless you dent him.
He's very aggressive in his approach, unless you give him a little something to feel there.
A bully,
You've got to let them feel the presence.
These are pretty basic mistakes now, aren't they? These are pretty fundamental differences between
Getting
what
bored
you'd
now,
expect
but
an elite heavyweight
try
that's
another 5
conditioned to
minutes.
be in this environment. And everyone had said was going to deal with this, Daniel Dubois, and everyone was tipping to
'Cause
deal
they're
so.
never
and
just gonna
been
say
on the
that
back
he
of
got-
Ben
he's got no
Davison's
chin and
excellence.
he got
These are
chin.
pretty fundamental basics, aren't they?
There's an elite heavyweight that's been doing these things against unelite fighters in Hellenius, Otto Vollen and Ngannou, and there's an elite heavyweight that's now having to do it against an elite heavyweight.
Yeah.
So hold on
And
a
that's the
second, but no one was writing that particular script before the fight because the only person with respect that was suggesting that the fights that he had were Wallen was made for him because of the sparring they had before, so he knew he could beat him up. Helenius didn't come to fight. Jermaine Franklin was whatever he was, and Ngannou was there to be beaten. That narrative was only being trotted out by me. All of you guys were going, hang on a second, he's fully rehabilitated, fully redeemed, back in the zone. We're seeing the best version of Anthony Joshua. It's a done deal. Now we're writing a different script. Now we're saying that he was now in with an elite heavyweight, and ultimately he can't do the things that he did in the last 4 fights against an elite heavyweight.
Sometimes we can only. Sometimes we can only review the film when the film is over.
I've got to say this, mate. When we done the show the week before the show, I said, What's your thoughts on it? What's your opinion? You went, well, I'll give you the opinion after the fight. You can't, and now you're going, well, my opinion was right.
What I said was, if you actually recall, was I'm not sure that I'm sure someone can, but I'm not sure Daniel can execute. I think Anthony Joshua is going to get beaten. I'm just not sure it's going to be by Daniel Dubois.
Yeah. Told you.
But it depends upon what version of Daniel Dubois turns up and what the version of Anthony Joshua turns up. And the version of Anthony Joshua turned up is the version that I've led myself to believe.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. Obviously, if the version of Anthony Joshua turns up that gets chinned and ends up on floor rolling around, getting rolled up like a rug, like I keep saying, that's going to be the version of Anthony Joshua that turns up, and you're going to be right, aren't there? But if that isn't the version of Anthony Joshua that turns up, and the version of Daniel Dubois that turns up that quit against Usyk, he won't win the fight. That's how boxing works, surely. One of them has to win, barring a draw at the end of it.
Would turn up, and you guys and all your little boxing orthodoxy convinced me, and fair play to you. It's my weakness for going, yeah, you're probably right. It'll be
it's your
do you know
weakness.
what, though?
Say what you
I don't
think.
think anyone expected it,
You reckon
Simon.
you do
I
with
mean,
everything else.
The way that fight unfolded,
You had the
as
same
soon as
feeling. You had the same feeling as me. I texted you on Saturday morning.
I totally. I know.
said,
I agree.
If everybody thinks it behind and you're all texting each other going, I'm certain Dubois is going to do him, why ain't you gone on radio and gone on your bullshit talk sport that you think's, you proper overestimate the power you have in boxing for some unknown reason? Like, you think, people actually give a shit what Catterall thinks.
in the air here. So many people are writing off Dubois.
The
Some
casual.
people are giving him no chance.
Simon Jordan's a
I would
total
not be
casual.
surprised.
We had that conversation. We did, and you say,
watch
listen,
these things, you don't
Daniel
learn
Dubois, You know what
anything.
he'll do? He'll roll the dice. The chaos creates opportunity. Whether he can get himself in that position for that opportunity is a different matter. But we knew that he had the potential. We said, didn't we? It was not a complete surprise what happened. It turned over.
We're going to get on to rolling on the dice in a minute because it's a quote that's being used somewhere else, and we're going to analyse that. But are you surprised? I mean, there's a school of thought that suggests that it might have been better for Anthony Joshua to get cleaned out in the first round, be able to turn around and say someone it was a punch from the gods. Are you surprised that he got up in the first round?
Not surprised, because I know his makeup and I know how much he'd want it. The powers of recovery for AJ were very slow, and that was the problem. He gets up and he's still all over the place with his legs. But
he doesn't have the energy that everybody bangs on about.
You can't deny that. You go.
He's not this.
You're looking at that and going, "Wow! Like, how is he getting through these rounds? Round one, he's over. Round two, he's over. Round three, he's gone." Like, what I'm saying is, you're looking at that and going, where is he finding it from? Credit where credit's due there. So I was not surprised that he got up. He's got the fighter's mentality.
Is he, Ade, one of those that when he gets hit, he stays hit?
Yeah. Very much, not as bad as Amir Khan, but very much in that kind of mould. When he gets hit, he stays hit.
And that's not.
We've seen it now.
That's not a new thing, by the way. Like, when he.
I think that's a slight misinterpretation of Amir Khan. When Amir Khan gets banged out, he gets chinned, he gets banged out against pretty big punches, tends to be. But, he can actually stay hit and he can recover. He can come back from fights where he's had a wobble. Granted, you know, there's a difference between wobbling all over shop and getting knocked out within that moment and then not being able to recover, you know, because it's a knockout. But his power recovery was actually all right unless he's getting chinned. And he could take a bit of a pace. He took a bit of a pacing off Maidana and he held in there, he hung in there and he recovered. So I'm not sure it's the same thing. Joshua's got bullied the whole match, whole fight.
Got knocked down in the 7th round against Klitschko.
And couldn't recover.
It took him till the 10th round to recover. But Klitschko never done anything. And
Klitschko.
When he recovers, he's like, right,
No,
I'm back. The recovery process,
he's 7 years
mate.
younger, Spence. He's 7 years younger, so the powers of recovery are a lot better. As good as AJ is and as fit as he looks, and I know AJ is, you know, probably one of the best athletes we've ever seen. He's 35 in October.
Yes.
This is what I mean. What is that based on? One of the best athletes we've ever seen. I'll just keep it to boxing if you want, but is that even close to being true? That is a wild, wild statement. Can you find me some fights where he ain't gassed? He literally, if it goes past 5 rounds or somebody don't fall over the second that he chins them, if they're not looking for canvas when they walk in, as John Fury would say, he gasses like nobody's business. He totally depleted in Klitschko fight. He was totally depleted in this. He was totally depleted in Ruiz fight. He had his moments against Dylan White years ago. If they don't go away straight away, Parker didn't really put it on him. Where's this athlete come from? You're telling me Usyk's not a better athlete than him? Or any of the actual like fit middleweights and the lower divisions like, you know, your Josh Warringtons and Floyd Mayweather back in the day. Just name anybody that isn't a heavyweight. They tend to be really good athletes. I think Tyson Fury's a better athlete. And then if we move away from boxing, I don't even think he's anywhere near any top level sportsman in terms of an athlete. I don't get it. He looks like a beast. Looks like a bodybuilder. That's not athlete. That's not athleticism, is it? Can he run 100 metres? If he can, he can't run 2.
The same. It's a young man's game. And up against him was someone
he got
that
chinned years ago when he were
beat
younger,
Klitschko.
you dick slap.
26, 27-year-old, that's full of beans.
Was the live one that Joe Gallagher forecast. Joe Gallagher said this is the first time he's been in with a live one, and there's going to be a challenge as a result of it. When you look at the 5th round and we move, let's go back to the 4th round. You know, in terms of
can we talk about him getting chinned?
Dialogue that we've been privy to now, which was
because if they end up talking about the fact,
the dice,
if they end up talking about him catching Dubois,
which was the corner,
they just ignored the whole beat down.
Being led by one of the cornermen, then being supported by Ben Davidson about rolling the dice.
Yeah.
And then you've got this overlay where Shane McGuigan is commenting on the fight and saying, hang on a second, that's very dangerous advice. He's going to leave himself open and susceptible to a short right hand. And 45 seconds later, that's precisely what you've got.
Shane was spot on with that analysis because you look at that and you go, roll the dice. He's still trying to get himself back together. Yeah. One little clip, when you're like that as a boxer, one little clip, you go back to that situation where you're...
There's been a lot made of this rolling of the dice thing. To be fair, you know, I mean, that McGuigan guy called it absolutely perfectly. But in all fairness, he wasn't putting it on him at all, and he kept getting chinned. So at some point, you just have to go, you're going to have to go for it at some point, Anthony, because... for some reason, as your trainer, you cannot get out of the way of any of this fella's punches. So you're going down regardless.
Totally gone again. So it's all about rebuilding. So you've got to be smart. It's got to be educational in what you're doing. You don't roll the dice in them situations. AJ lands that right hand, and
it nearly worked.
Where did that come from to throw a lead uppercut whilst you've got a guy in the corner? It's like that's like Russian roulette. Because you leave yourself wide open on that side, and Daniel's only got to put a tiny little shot out.
I agree with that.
And it's lights out. I think punch. Rolling the dice situation, that's terrible advice.
It's
terrible advice.
It's bad corner advice. It's the
best thing that happened for him.
You've been knocked down 6 or 7 times, and this is now round 11. Yeah. And you somehow got to round 11.
You roll the dice in round 11, 12.
Maybe roll the dice then. To do it when you've had that disaster of a round 4, it should just be very basic. Let's just hang on, hold.
You couldn't hang on. Did nobody else watch the fight?
Were you surprised at the lack of intensity in the corner? I mean, a calm corner is a good corner, right?
But is it though?
During the fight, you're watching Anthony, and with due respect to the terminology, Anthony was getting battered around the ring. You know, in the 5th, he hurt Dubois in the 4th, and he got Dubois going in the 5th. But prior to that, he's getting battered from pillar to post. Yet there doesn't seem to be any intensity, any urgency, any kind of sentiment of... You don't want to communicate crisis to someone, but you want to get people
sometimes
awake.
Sometimes you got to. Sometimes you've got to. I mean,
right.
Emmanuel Stewart did it so many times with Vladimir Klitschko, famously. We've seen Nazim Richardson, the great late Nazim Richardson, used to do it as well. It was a crisis. And sometimes you've got to make it be a crisis. The fighters have got to understand it as well. Because AJ was going back to that corner and it was like, you're all right, I am all right, AJ said. I'm like, you're not all right. You're not all right, you're getting bashed up and someone's got to explain it to him. Like, just cover up. Someone's got to scream. Ben Davison's sort of level never goes up or down. It's kind of the same, isn't it, all the time? But there's a time for a level change there.
1,000,000%.
Your boy's getting beaten up, and you need to say something.
Well, he did, didn't he? And you didn't like his advice. What would you have said to him, Ade? Let's provide me something then. Let's learn something. Tell me something that should say.
There's a sense of urgency, or there's a sense of urgency needed in the fighter if he's having a minor crisis or whatever. There's a time to be calm, and there's a time to pick it up and give him a bollocking. And the timings were all wrong in that corner. Like you say, Simon, when you go like one tone through the fighter himself, he doesn't react to that. Yeah. It's like if my trainer was saying to me, if a fight was close and we were in the 10th round, 11th round, he'd say to me, you want to lose this fight? Because you're losing the fight. You know, pick it up. Let's go.
You need that gear change.
But that hits a switch in the brain.
You need the gear change. If you bollock someone all the time, they become anaesthetised to it. So you've got to be able to have the switch gear and be able to switch up in any walk of life, whether it's business, football, boxing, or whatever it is. Be able to concentrate someone's mind. Do we take any? I mean, I looked at that. I'm sorry. You know, I think that Ben Davison was getting a hell of a lot of credit and a hell of a lot of accolades. And there's a perception that Ben Davison is in the Ben Davison business, and obviously Anthony Joshua was being very complimentary and refers to everything now as we, no longer I. I don't know what you take from that, whether that's meaningful. I think sometimes you've got to be I. I want to do this. I'm doing this. I'm disappointed. Not we're disappointed. We'll come back because ultimately it's going to have to be him, isn't it?
Of course.
Do we think?
They're just going to go on like that. I don't want to. I can't be arsed watching any more of it. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Anthony Joshua? I think he's had a decent career. I've never liked him. I never liked him when everybody liked him. It's a form of flip flopping, I believe. This, you know, I don't mind these guys. They're all right. There's some of the better ones that do it, but talksport in general pass themselves off as experts. Obviously, Spencer Oliver had a decent boxing career, but I don't know. What are your thoughts? We're back, boy. If you like any of the content, like, subscribe, all that shit. See you in a bit.